Daf Yomi Tractate. Menachot, page 89b. It's a new Mishnah that actually is the last line of 89a. So we'll start from that Mishnah on the bottom of 89a. New Mishnah. Many animal offerings are brought together with a meal offering and a wine libation. These additions are collectively referred to as libations. One may mix together the libations of bulls with the libations of rams. The meal offerings may be mixed as they both share the same ratio of flour to oil, meaning 2 log of oil for each tenth of an ephah of flour. Likewise, one may mix together the libations of lambs with the libations of other lambs, as the meal offerings both share the same ratio of 3 log of oil for each tenth of an ephah of flour. And one may mix together the libations of the offering of an individual with those of a communal offering. Now we turn to 89b on the top. We're still in the Mishnah. Shal Yom B'Shel Emesh. And one may mix together the libations of an offering brought on one day with those of the day before, if the meal offerings have the same ratio of oil to flour. But one may not mix together the libations of lambs with the libations of bulls or the libations of rams, as the meal offerings have different ratios of oil to flour. And nevertheless, if one intermingled the flour and oil these lamb offerings by themselves, and the flour and the oil of these bull rams and offerings by themselves, and only then they were mixed together, then they remained fit to be sacrificed. If they were mixed together before the oil and the flour of each offering were independently intermingled to form the meal offering, then they are disqualified. With regard to the lamb offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, which is accompanied by another meal offering and a wine libation, even though the quantity of flour used in its meal offering is doubled, meaning one uses twice the amount that is generally used for meal offerings that accompany the sacrifice of a lamb. Its oil and wine libations were not doubled. Rather, 3 log of oil, 3 log of wine were used per the standard quantities used for a lamb. Continuing to the Talmud, Gemara says Uraminu. The Mishnah states that different types of libations may be mixed together, provided the meal offerings have the same flour to oil ratio. The Gemara raises a contradiction, Uraminu, as to this from a Braita discussing the verse, and he shall sacrifice from the peace offerings a fire to the Lord, the fat covering the innards, and all the fat that is on the innards, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them, which is over the loins, and the diaphragm with the liver, with the kidneys, he shall take away. And Aaron's sons shall burn it on the altar, apart from the burnt offering which is on the wood that is on the fire. It is a fire of a pleasing aroma to the Lord. Leviticus 3:3-5. The direct object of the term, and they shall burn, meaning the pronoun it is singular despite referring to the many types of fats listed in the verse. This indicates that one may not mix fats of one offering with the fats of a different offering, but should burn the parts from each offering separately. Similarly, it follows that the libations accompanying different animal offerings should not be mixed together. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Im Nisarvu Kamar. Rabbi Yochanan says the Mishnah stated only that if libations of different offerings were mixed together, one may still sacrifice them, but not that this permitted ab initio. Accordingly, there is no contradiction between the Mishnah and Braita. Yachi, Imarvin Niskevasim Niskeim Paravelim, Afid Luisaru Namilo, Ha Medikatani Sefa Balalan Elu Bipneatzman, Elu Bneatzman Nisaru Ksherim. The Gemara infers, if that is so, then when the Mishnah states in its first clause that one may not mix together libation of lambs with libation of bulls or libation of rams, the intention is that even after the fact that they were mixed together, they are also not valid. The Gemara challenges, but from the fact that the latter clause teaches if one intermingle the flour and oil of these lamb offerings by themselves and the flour and the oil of these bull or ram offerings by themselves, and only then were they mixed together, then they remain fit to be sacrificed, which is explicitly referring to the halacha. After the fact, it may be inferred that the first clause stated the halacha ab initio. Okay? Pause. Vaitel. Amar Abaye, Hoy Kamar, Malvin Yenon, In Nisar Sultan Ishamdan. Abaye said that this is what the mission is saying. When different animal offerings are sacrificed, their wine libations may be mixed together ab initio, but only if their fine flour and their oil from their respective meal offerings were already mixed together, albeit improperly. The Gemara asks, and is it correct that one may not mix together the wine libations of different offerings ab initio unless their flour and oil are already mixed? But isn't it taught in the continuation of the Braita just cited? In what case is this statement that one may not mix together parts from different offerings said? It's said only with regard to flour and oil, but one may mix together the wine libations of different offerings. The implication is that this is the halacha even if their meal offerings had not been mixed together. Hey, Chedehu Ktal Sultan B'Shamnan Me'alvilin Nichat Chilo. Hey, Chedehu Ktal Im Nis Oiv Sultan B'Shamnan Me'alvin Nami Yenon. Im Lav Im Marvin Dilma Asi Le'i Orove Soiles B'Shemen Chachila. Rather, Abaye said that this is what the mission is saying. With regard to offerings of similar types of animals, where their fine flour and their oil from their respective meal offerings have been burned on the altar, one may mix together the wine libations ab initio, and even where their fine flour and their oil have not been burned, if their fine flour and their oil have at least been mixed together, one may mix together their wine libations ab initio. But if the fine flour and oil have not been mixed together, then one may not mix the libations together. The reason is that if one does mix the libations, perhaps one will come to mix together the flour and oil ab initio, which is prohibited. The Mishnah teaches with regard to the lamb offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, the quantity of flour used in its meal offering is doubled, meaning one uses twice the amount that is generally used for meal offerings that accompany the sacrifice of a lamb, but the quantities of oil and wine are not doubled. The sages taught in a Braita, the verse states, with regard to the Omer meal offering, and its meal offering shall be 2/10, Leviticus 23:13. This verse teaches about the lamb that comes with the omer, that the size of its meal offering is doubled. Yachol Geshem Shemilasa Gevula Kachine Kaful Tam Lomao Venisko Yain Revi Sahin Yachol Lo Yehe Yeno Kaful Yeno Nivlal Im Minchaso Aval Yehe Sham No Kaful Nivlal Im Minchaso Tam Lomao Venisko Kol Nisachov Lo Yehu Ela Rebis. One might have thought that just as its meal offering is doubled, so too its wine libation should be doubled, meaning instead of using a quarter hin as is generally done for lambs, one should use a half hin. To counter this, the verse states in its continuation, and its libation shall be of wine a quarter hin. Leviticus 23:13. One might have thought that it is only its wine. Vital. Okay, one might have thought, we'll start from the beginning of the sentence. One might have thought that just as its meal offerings is doubled, so to its wine libation should be doubled, meaning instead of using a quarter hin as is generally done for lambs, one should use a half hin. To counter this, the verse states, in its continuation, and its libation shall be of wine a quarter hin. Leviticus 23:13. One might have thought that it is only its wine libation that should not be doubled, as it is not intermingled with the flour of its meal offering, but its oil should be doubled, as it is intermingled with the flour of its meal offering. To counter this, the verse states, and its libation shall be of wine a quarter hin, which teaches that all of its libations shall be only a quarter hin, but no more. My Talmudah. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Kesiv Benisko, Bekarinen Beniskoi. The Gemara elaborates on the final proof of the Braita. What is the biblical derivation here? Rabbi Elazar says, there is an ambiguity as to whether the possessive pronoun in the term and its libation is referring to the lamb offering or the meal offering, both of which are mentioned previously in the verse. This is due to a disparity between the way the Hebrew word for the term is written and the way it is vocalized. It's written as beniska, with the possessive pronoun in the feminine form. This would be referring to the meal offering, mincha, which is a feminine noun. Accordingly, this means libation of the meal offering, and it is referring to the oil that is intermingled in the meal offering. And we read it as venisko with possessive pronoun in the masculine form. This would be referring to the lamb offering itself, keves, which is a masculine noun. Accordingly, this means the libation of the lamb offering, which is a reference to the wine libation that accompanies lamb offering. Ketzad. You hear that? It's almost Shabbat. Almost. We have like 15 minutes until candlelighting. Yeah. Ketzad niska de mincha, niska gedayan, the yayin, my yayin, revius af shem and revius. How can this be explained? It teaches the libation of the meal offering. Second. Okay. How can it teach the libation of the meal offering, meaning its oil is just like libation of lamb wine? Just as the quantity of wine used in a quarter hin, so too the quantity of oil used in a quarter hin, and no more. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hashem Tzoira, Shishatu Shelo Lishmo, Taun Nisachim, She'im Iyata Imelkein Pesalto. The Gemara recites a related discussion. A guilt offering brought by a leper as part of his purification process is distinct from other guilt offerings, in that there is an additional requirement that it must be brought together with a meal offering and a wine libation. Rabbi Yochanan says, in the case of a guilt offering of a leper that one slaughtered not for its own sake, although the leper can therefore no longer fulfill his obligation with it, the offering continues to be regarded as a guilt offering of a leper and still requires libations, meaning a meal offering and a wine libation, and as if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. To bring it without libations, one would have to regard it as a standard guilt offering, but the halacha is that an offering may not be sacrificed for a different purpose than the one for which it was originally consecrated. Maskif Menachot Menachot Bargado Elo Miatacheves Habo Ima Omer Sheshachtu Shlo Lishmoi Tehei Menachot Kefula Shim Yit Ata Omer Kein Pesalto Menachot Bargado objects to this. If that is so, then that whatever an offering is consecrated for a specific person, it requires various additional conditions to be fulfilled beyond those normally required for that type of offering. That even if it is then slaughtered not for its own sake, these conditions must still be fulfilled in order for the offering to be valid. Then, with regard to the lamb offering that comes with the Omer meal offering, the halacha should likewise be that if one slaughtered it not for its own sake, the flour in its meal offering should still be doubled in quantity as normally required for the Omer meal offering, because it continues to be regarded as an Omer meal offering. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. V'tamid shel shachal sheshavato shelo lishma yehi ta'un shnei gezirin v'kohen echad she'im Iyata Omer Kein Pesalto V'tamid Shel Bein HaArbaim Sheshavato Shelo Lishma Yehei Ta'un Shnei Gezirin V'Shnei Kohanim She'im Iyata Omer Kein Pesalto. And similarly, with regard to the daily morning offering of one slaughtered not for its own sake, it should still require the arrangement of 2 logs of wood on the fire on the altar by one priest, because it continues to be regarded as a daily morning offering. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. And similarly, with regard to the daily afternoon offering, if one slaughtered it not for its own sake, it should still require the arrangement of 2 logs of wood on the fire on the altar by 2 priests, because it continues to be regarded as a daily afternoon offering. As if you do not say this, you have disqualified it. The fact that Rabbi Yochanan did not mention these halachot suggests that he holds that they are not correct, but then his opinion is logically inconsistent. Inachinami ella amar Abaya chadu minayu nakat. The Gemara deflects this objection. Yes, indeed, it is so. Rabbi Yochanan's ruling should be extended to other cases, as Rabbi Menachot Bargado claimed. Rather, Abaya said Rabbi Yochanan mentioned just one of them as an example, even though they are all correct. Rabbi Abba Amar Bishlam Hanach Oilos Dinu. Rabbi Abba said that there is a different resolution. Actually, Rabbi Yochanan's ruling is limited to a guilt offering of a leper. The other offerings that Rabbi Menachot Bargado mentioned would be valid even if the additional conditions that originally applied to them were not fulfilled. The reason for this is as follows. Granted, these other offerings that Rabbi Menachot Bargado mentioned would be valid as they are burnt offerings,